Hello to everybody who has joined us so far today. We really appreciate you being with us. It's 10:59 here in California, my time on the Pacific. We'll get started in just a minute. We'll let a couple more people in. All right, we've got a few more people that are just joining us right now, but I wanted to thank everybody who is on the webinar right now. We really appreciate you being with us here. And today we'll go ahead and start getting to the point here, which is talking about something that I really love to talk about, which is smart monitoring and optimized irrigations, solutions that every grower can use. So I really appreciate you being with us here today, and we'll get into the webinar. And then we'll go over here a couple of things. So for this webinar, we're probably going to run around 45 minutes or so. Just going to kind of talk about the solutions we have and kind of irrigation practices, kind of what that looks like. And then for 15 minutes or so at the end, even if we go over sometimes, we'd like to answer all of your questions. We'll have a Q&A section. But as the questions come up, please go ahead and type those into the questions box so we can kind of take a look at those and answer those right at the end. Andrew Thompson and myself will be kind of going over both of those questions. He'll answer some, I'll answer some of the other ones. And then we are going to be recording this webinar, and we'll go ahead and send you a link of the recording afterwards. And we also send it to those who to sign up and are not able to join for some reason. So we'll go ahead and send you a recording of that. But yeah, look for about 45 minutes of talk and then some Q&A afterwards. Again, we really appreciate you being with us here today. So I am your presenter today. My name is Brett Stebbins. I am the sales lead in our Water Resource Department division out here in California, centrally focused and over the West Coast. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've been working in the agricultural space, mainly on the operations side. And in those operations side, I was able to do some installation of monitoring equipment. And then I've also worked with many growers and GSAs and irrigation companies around the state here in California on providing remote monitoring equipment for exactly the things that we're going to be talking about today. So my focus with Hobo data loggers continues to be working on the ag and the water resources side in the applications. I've been doing this for a while, and hopefully I can continue to be a resource for any of you that are here today, or maybe some of the people that you work with. Got my contact information here as well, just in case you want to get a hold of me afterwards. I'll put it up again right at the end when we go over the Q&A. I like to be a resource. I like to talk applications. I've spent a lot of time out in the field and worked with a lot of different products. So hopefully I can help you out someday. And hopefully this webinar will be beneficial for you. So today's agenda, here's a couple of topics that we're going to touch on today. So I always like to talk about who we are as Hobo data loggers. I think it's really important that you know the company, know who you're working with. And then we'll go ahead and get into irrigation systems, kind of an overview on what the irrigation system looks like, what monitoring options you have for the irrigation system and for your crops, because the irrigation is putting water down on your crop. We'll get into most of what we have, and what we're going to discuss are our real-time cellular monitoring solutions. We'll get into some stuff about soil moisture, for irrigation, pumps. We'll also touch on a product that is really unique that we have at Hobo Data Loggers, which is our HoboNet wireless sensor network. So you're able to install many different sensors throughout your crop, throughout your operation, to really get a larger grasp of what's going on. And then I'm going to touch on our Lycor product, which is our LI710 and our water node, and kind of you'll see how this kind of pulls everything together towards the end on best irrigation practices and something that can be a really useful tool for many of you that are out there. And then, like I said earlier, we'll go over a Q&A section. So here's one of my favorite parts about doing a webinar, is just talking a little bit about Hobo Data Loggers. Hobo Data Loggers is a fantastic company. I've been here for coming on 2 years here, but I've been working with Hobo and knowing the Hobo team for many years. So we are Hobo Data Loggers. We manufacture the data loggers and all the solutions that we're going to be talking about today. Many of you know us. We are a worldwide company. We've been doing this since 1981. We've been doing it for quite a while, and we are located in Bourne, Massachusetts. So everything's made here in the US through a wonderful team. We have just an excellent staff of engineers and our product line development team who manufactures and makes everything here in the US. About a year and a half ago, yeah, more or less, Hobo Data Loggers became a part of Lycor Environmental. And it was a very great event that happened for us at Hobo and Lycor, because now we come together as a team that has been working in the environmental monitoring space for 50 years. So we both are worldwide companies, and we have distributors all over this global network that we have. So Lycor focused on mainly gas fluxes, and we focused on water resources and a lot of different applications. So we kind of complemented each other, and it's been really great to be a part of Lycor. But I represent the Hobo Data Logger side, and we're going to go over most of those because most of those pertain to kind of what you all are focused on the irrigation side. So if we take a look at an irrigation system, irrigation systems, as you all know, are very complex, and it's what gives your plants life, right? We all need air, we need water, we need soil. Well, the irrigation system is what's providing that supplemental water that weather does not provide. I'm out here in California, and we couldn't grow our crops without irrigation, right? We just don't have the consistent amount of rainfall that comes to be able to provide sufficient water for our crops. So that's why we have irrigations. And an irrigation system, if you were to start out, if you were a grower, if you were somebody who wanted to get into farming, you would buy your land, and you would buy your plants and your seeds, and a huge part of your initial setup is going to be the irrigation system. The irrigation system is probably going to be anywhere from 30 to 40% of your initial investment on your operation. So, that's a significant cost, and it's something that should be paid attention to. We should be seeing how our irrigation system performs, and that costs, because it can be between $1,000 to $4,000, maybe even plus per acre, the cost. So a lot of money gets put into irrigation systems. And if we're all honest with each other, and there's probably some of you growers who are here today, the most common practice of checking if an irrigation system is working is just by walking the field, walking your operations to see if everything's irrigated. There's things that the eye is going to miss. And, we just don't, this day and age with the way that we work, we just don't have enough time to constantly just be walking every single part of our irrigation systems and checking it out. So that is where kind of the remote monitoring comes in. It's able to get feet on the ground when you're not able to get feet on the ground. So it's really important that we start to understand and look at our irrigation performance, because it is a huge cost, and it is very important because it's giving something to the plants that is crucial. It has to have it in order to thrive and to produce and to have yield. So when I was kind of putting together this presentation, I looked at You know, irrigation systems as a whole, and if you were to follow one of the water molecules from start to finish, this is where it would go through. And I wanted to focus on this irrigation cycle because in this webinar, I'm going to go over what this irrigation cycle, this water cycle looks like in the irrigation system. And then we're going to touch on each one of these aspects on how we can do the monitoring for that. So, you know, the irrigation system is going to start off in your water source, whether you're pulling out of a reservoir, you're pulling out of an irrigation canal, you're pulling out of groundwater. The water has a source and you're really pulling from that source. So when you pull from that source, it starts off, the water molecule, right? It starts off in that source. And then it moves through a pump, it goes through a filter. That's kind of the second phase of this. The third phase is it flowing through your main line, right? And then it gets to your submains, and then eventually comes out in the sprinklers or the drip system, your mist system, whatever it has, it eventually comes out and starts to contact the soil or contact the plants. So those are the next two, right? It goes from the system inside this closed system to then the soil. The plants take up the water, they use it for their growing, and then eventually it gets pushed back out into the air through evapotranspiration, transpiration. But then we have another function that kind of not hinders, either helps or just changes how much water is going to come out of the plants or the soil. And that's our weather, right? Is it cloudy? Is it windy? Are we having a full sun? Kind of what are those conditions? So this is the water cycle. It starts from the source and it ends up most of the time finishing up in the air, or if there's runoff, it can run off back, maybe sometimes into the water source. So the best way to be able to monitor every aspect of this water cycle in our irrigation systems is through real-time monitoring that is actually on site. So we have two different solutions for that. We have both of these options that you have on the screen right now are cellular stations. Basically what they're going to do is they're going to be pulling that data from the sensors. They're going to be pushing it to the cloud where you can access it remotely. And both of these options have some similarities and some differences. The similarities between most of these two options are it comes with a multi-carrier SIM card. So, right, everything's getting pushed up to the cloud. So it's these units themselves are going to look for the best carrier that's around in the area. They have solar panel options and battery options. The solar panel rechargeable battery options, those batteries are going to last you 3 to 5 years. Most of the time it's on the 5-year side of it. And then you can replace those batteries for both of these different units yourself. You don't have to send it back in. You can change these. These are both very hardy, rugged, weatherproof climate stations. They're meant to be out in your fields, whether it's here in California, it's out in Arizona. We've got some in Alaska. They are made to withstand all of the elements and monitor all the elements. So they're nice and hardy. And both of these options are very user-friendly. They're plug and play, and getting these up and starting operated just takes a kind of a push of a button and start getting your login and you're good to go. Some of the difference between these are we have on the left-hand side, we have the RX 2100 series, which is more of our compact design. It's got a built-in solar panel. It has 5 different housing ports where you can plug in climate and soil moisture sensors to it. You really just plug in the different options into it, and then you're up and running. Very easy to install. Very simple, compact design. It's about the size of like a small lunchbox that you'd give to one of your kids. And it also has an additional module for using either water level, right? If we talk about wanting to get to monitor your source, your water source, most of the time that's through a water level. Or we can also connect it to wireless sensors, and we'll go over that just in the next slide. We have this wireless mesh network of sensors that we can also create through this cellular data logger by adding on that wireless module. The second option we have is the RX3000. This is our more versatile option. What we mean by versatile is you can add up to 10 different plug and play climate and soil sensors to it. So you can add double the amount of these smart sensors we have. And it also has 2 modules that you can also do a number of different things with. In those modules, you can do a water level module. You can make it a wireless network of sensors by attaching the wireless module. It also has 2 module sections where you can put analog inputs. So if you have some sensors that take 4 to 20 milliamp or analog or voltage inputs, we can power and read those different sensors through the analog module. And we also have a relay module. So here's our 2 solutions. They have a wide breadth of things that we can monitor through them. So what I touched on earlier was, when we are describing both of these, is we can make these both into a wireless network. The other solution that we were talking about, those 2 cellular stations, if you do not add a wireless moat to it to make it into this wireless network, you're basically limiting yourself to the extent of the length of the cables to do your monitoring. But with this option, what we call our HoboNet mesh network option, you don't have to have everything cabled back to that main station, which is great because in ag applications and growing applications, most of the time you have multiple points where you want to do, and they're not really next to each other. You'd like to get multiple soil moisture sensors out in your field. You would like to possibly get multiple temperature alarms and alerts out in the field. And you also have probably a pump source that you want to connect some sensors to as well. So we have the ability to create this mesh network, which enables you to really expand your monitoring. And these are very reliable, they're robust. We like to call them self-forming and self-healing networks, because this radio signal that's being transmitted and received through these different sensors really looks for the best connection and the best performance. It looks for the easiest way back to get signal back to that cellular station. It uses 900 megahertz radio technology, and you can pretty much get between 1,500 to 2,000 feet range line of sight from one sensor to another. It doesn't have to be line of sight, but if it's not line of sight, it's going to diminish the length of that space between sensors. So you can connect up to 50 wireless sensors to this system. So imagine you're a grower, you have 300 acres, and you have, a ton of temperature sensors, you have pumps, you have groundwater, you have soil moisture, right? You can add up to 50 wireless sensors to this one station, and it's all going to talk back to that cellular station that we presented earlier. And they're very simple to set up. Really, you're pushing a button and it's connecting back to the cloud. If you know how to connect a Bluetooth speaker to maybe your phone or something like that, you're going to be able to install these. They're very simple and easy to use, and you're just able to gain such a greater reach in your growing operations by utilizing this HoboNet wireless mesh network that we have. So the mesh network, we have those cellular base stations, and they will connect up to what you see in the diagram here. This is, we have 2 pictures of these, what we call moats, the wireless moats. And they're about the size of your cell phone, maybe just a tad thicker. They have a user replaceable batteries, and they have their own small solar panel that's there as well. And the key to this wireless mesh network is cost savings on cell fees. If you had 10 areas where you would like to monitor with a lot of different telemetry companies, you'd have to have 10 different stations, and you'd have to pay 10 different cell fees for being able to hook all those up to the cloud. With these, you're only going to have one cell fee, because all of these moats that are presented here are just basically transmitters of the radio. So it's going to transmit radio through each other and then back to that base station. So you do not have to pay a cell fee for that. I forgot to mention it on one of the other sites slides that we had for the RX stations, but our data plans can go as low as $99 a year for a single station. But if you're going to be using this wireless mesh network, pretty much the cellular plans are going to start at $199 a year, which is still very affordable. All of these units themselves are also climate stations, so they're very robust. They're going to be able to withstand the temperatures and the applications that you're on. They will, for some reason, if they go down, they will onboard memory. And the next time they get the ability to connect up to that cellular station, they're going to push that data out, and you're able to retrieve the data from there. It has the AA replaceable batteries. They're going to last you 3 to 5 years. So once you install these, they're going to be very, very low maintenance once they're out in the field. And you'll be able to see all of the data from our dashboard. And like we said earlier, you're able to connect up to 50 different of these wireless sensors to it. Skipped over one here. So here are our HoboNet sensor options. You can see we have a wide range of those, and I'm going to go a little bit more in detail into each one as we get into that water cycle again. But we've got temp RH, solar radiation, wind speed and direction, rain gauge. Those are all of our weather and climate parameters. We also have a pulse adapter that is able to connect up to a flow meter or different things if you want to be able to see how much water you're putting out on your crop. We have 3 different soil moisture sensors. We'll go over those a little bit more in depth. We have a water level moat, and we also have our new analog moat. So you're able to connect up to different sensors, maybe some water quality that you're wanting to do in your reservoir, your holding pond. So we have that analog moat as well that like it is in the RX 3000, we can connect up to those analog channels. We have 4 channels in this moat as well. And one of the main reasons why we talk about and we offer this HoboNet system is because it is a scalable solution. We understand, or I at least understand, and many of you do, that sometimes you have a certain amount of funds to be able to start monitoring. You might want to start off with a soil moisture station or just a climate station. But with this HoboNet system, everything is scalable. You're able to increase your monitoring as revenue comes in, or maybe you have a good year, a lot of yield, you're able to sell a lot of those, and next year you want to increase your monitoring network. You can do that. You're not stuck with what you have with HoboNet. You're always able to add those sensors, up to 50 sensors per cellular unit that you have. So later on down the line, you want to add something, you want to add a rain gauge, you want to add another soil moisture site, you're easily able to do that. You don't have to purchase the cellular station again. You can just purchase more of these, what we call wireless moats. It really gives you flexibility down the line to be able to do more. And that's something to think about. If any of you or somebody who's looking at doing some monitoring down the line, kind of think long term, because you may only have one site that maybe needs to connect up to a flow meter. You may have one site that needs to just monitor your groundwater levels to be able to do some type of state reporting. But then down the line, you might want to pony up and get some soil moisture. You might want to put a weather station. So when you're thinking about purchasing these units, always think about the future and what you can do so you're not stuck with just what you have. All of these units utilize our Lycor cloud platform. This is where you're going to be able to visualize all of the data. You'll be able to create customized dashboards. We have a great Google Maps feature. This is the area where you're going to log in and see all of that. You're also able to create alerts, which is fantastic, especially for you growers and operators that are out there. If something has gone out of threshold, like a temperature sensor or a flow or water level, you can have a text alert or email alert go to you. So you don't always have to go out on site and check. For putting those thresholds through our platform and let us send you an alert when something's kind of out of whack or met a threshold. Also, those alerts are there for if for some reason your trees have grown and now the sensor's in the shade and it's not receiving enough enough sunlight throughout the day, or if something's offline or there's a sensor that is not working correctly, it's going to send you those alarms. So all of that is done through our Lycor cloud. We've got exports, so you can visualize that data on our system, or you can export that data and share it and do whatever you want with it. We can also integrate with other software platforms. So say you have a software platform that you already use and you'd like to visualize your data there. We have an API where we can send that software over to you and see that with an integration. We can also create what we call a public URL, which is basically just sharing one of those graphs with the public. Sometimes irrigation and water agencies have to do that. So that's a possibility. We can talk a little bit about that later on down the line if you have to have that as one of your criteria for monitoring. And then you can set up many different users. You can create user logins. There's no extra cost for having one system and having 10 people log in and have different credentials and different access for the software. So all of what we're talking about here is the real-time monitoring, and that all uses our Lycor cloud platform. Here's just a quick look at some of the dashboards that you can create. You can overlay a couple of different sensors on one dashboard. You can create bar charts, line graphs, a gauge, thermometer. We have a lot of different dashboards that you can kind of create and work with on the Lycor cloud platform. So now we'll get back into the application side of things. So remember in the beginning, we talked about the water cycle in irrigation and how we monitor it. So, right, this is the part where we're going to get into each one of those areas of the water cycle. So we first talked about the water source. You know, where are we getting that water from for your application? So we can monitor groundwater wells, we can monitor reservoirs, irrigation canals, almost anywhere where you're getting your water from for your applications, we can monitor that. But most of the time, we're going to use one of our RX stations for water level or flow to be able to hook up to that water source. We can also have one of those stations, a wireless network, and we can utilize our water level moat with HoboNet. We can do one sensor that is monitoring the water level, another that's doing soil moisture, and maybe you're going to have all the climate parameters hooked up to that RX station. We also do, I wanted to mention, we do have our MX 2001 Bluetooth water level option in case you didn't want to get into the real time. We do have a Bluetooth option for monitoring. I wanted to take a look at that picture there that is on the right-hand side, because that is utilizing our HoboNet. You can see the RX station on that T-post that's there, and you can also see that wireless moat that's there as well. So in this application, we are monitoring the flow meter and the groundwater level of this well here. And then across the way, we also have some soil moisture sensors. So we are utilizing HoboNet and to be able to monitor multiple different points throughout this application. So I wanted to kind of take a look at and show you an example of what is capable with these units. So you could, if you didn't want to use the wireless, you could actually have everything wired directly into that RX station for this site. You could do one cable, which is a smart sensor that will hook right into that station, go right into the flow meter, and then you could do the water level on the other side as well. So for your water source, we have several different monitoring options for you that just give you a ton of data on how much water is available, what are the fluctuations throughout the season, do you have enough to turn on the pump, a lot of different reasons why you would want to monitor your water source, and we have options for that. Next, I wanted to touch on the pump, right? So from your water source, the water then goes through your pump. So here are the different parameters that we can monitor. We have pump runtime. How long is the pump going to go on? You can monitor AC current. You can monitor the AC voltage, DC current, DC voltage, pressure differential, 4 to 20 milliamp. One of the most common questions that I have when I go to some meetings or conferences is, what do you have that can monitor my pump? And here are the options we have, right? For the runtime, it's pretty simple. How long is the pump on? When is it on? What's the run frequency? And the AC power, you can connect up to your pump to see that, read that. The DC power, you can maybe monitor the solar panels that are powering your pump if you have it. There's just so many ways we can monitor your pump's performance. And most of the time it's how much is it on? Because I've actually had people correct power bills off of using the telemetry and using this, because you can prove and say, here's when my pump was on, here's when it was off. I was not running on peak hours for that extra charge. So, you know, for just a little extra, you can do some pump monitoring that give you a ton of information on your pump's performance and just seeing when it was on and off. So a lot of great sensors that we can have to hook right into your pump to tell all these. The next area that we can do, right, is when that water moves from the pump and now it starts to go through your main lines. We can connect up to flow meters. And to me, one of the greatest benefits of being able to hook up into a flow meter is you're just able to see how much water you're using on a year-to-year basis. How much water are you using? And your savings or the other applications that you're doing to try and save water, right? Are they working? Are you using less water year to year? So we have two options. We have a plug and play smart sensor that you can connect up into one of those RX real-time cellular data loggers. You can connect up to it, plug it into the logger, connect two wires over to the flow meter, and you're getting flow data. We also have it available through a wireless moat with a contact closure, a pulse input adapter, right? Those newer flow meters are all going to have some type of a pulse adapter that we're able to hook up into. And you can see here on the dashboard, this is overlaid with a water level. You can see that as you turn on the pump, you can see the water level decrease in the well, and you can see that gallons per minute increase. It's really critical to be able to understand our water levels and the amount of water we're using. If you overlay these, you can see how fast the water recharges. You can see on this chart, the water recharges and goes back really quick. And the drawdown looks like it's, you know, maybe 12 or 14 feet when when the pump turns on. So it gives you so much data just being able to do flow monitoring. And some of you, if you're here in California, you have to do it anyways to be able to report the water that you're using. You may as well use it for your growing operations as well. So a lot of different things you can do, right, with doing flow monitoring. It is a very inexpensive option that we have here for doing that type of monitoring as it goes into your main line. You can also, if you look at the data on your flow meter, you can actually most of the time get almost a filter performance. How well is your filter performing? How often does it go through a backflush, especially if you have your flow meter going after your filter station? You can see as it goes through a backflush how much water you're losing if the filter's plugged up. So there's endless amounts of possibilities, but you just have to do it. You have to do that flow monitoring. And if you are interested in one of our systems, let me know, and I can tell you more benefits about just our flow monitoring options. The next, which I think is pretty self-explanatory and what a lot of us know about and do, is we have soil moisture monitoring. And that is a really good gauge of your water's performance when it hits the soil. How long does it take to get down to, say, 12 inches to the root zone? How long does it take to get down to 24 inches? So if you're doing flow monitoring and you're doing soil moisture monitoring, you can kind of tell how long you need to irrigate to get down to different zones. So we've got a couple of different options. We have one option, which is kind of our EC5 single point sensor, which is a smart sensor. So you can just plug that into the station. Or we do have the wireless mote, and we have the wireless mote in all three of these different stations. So we have the EC5, the Teros 11 and 12 for single point soil moisture and temperature, and even EC if you want. And then we have the multi-depth soil moisture probes. I did want to just make a quick chime here about, we do have a Bluetooth option for single point soil moisture. So if you're ever up for that or had a really tough spot that you wanted to get to, but you didn't want to go for a full real-time station, we do have that. But all of these soil moisture options that we have here, we have in the wireless motes. And I recommend that more than anything, because you're able to give so much more or space out so much more your soil moisture. You don't, have to do a ton in your field, especially if you have a uniform irrigation cycle. But I would like to get more than one sensor out. Say if you have 100 acres, I'd want to get a couple of these out there at least. Some people like the single point sensors because all you're really worried about is, say, 12 inches, right? If you're growing tomatoes or something, you only maybe want to worry about 12 inches. You may only be concerned about what your water and your soil moisture is like at 12 inches. And these single point sensors are going to be fantastic for you. If you would like to understand what's going on in your soil profile, to be able to see how long water takes to get down to certain levels, and you want to monitor certain levels, you would probably want to go with a multi-depth soil moisture probe. Those probes come in an 18-inch, a 24-inch, and a 35-inch version, and they have soil moisture settings every 6 inches on there. So that's what we have for the soil moisture, right? Because after your water source, your pump, your main line, now we're also monitoring what's happening in the soil and seeing if your plants have enough water to uptake for healthy production for yield. We also do have a couple of options if you actually wanted to monitor the plants itself. So maybe you want to monitor a leaf wetness because you want to be able to see if you need to do a spray, if you're having too much moisture on the leaf, or if you want to actually see what the par is looking like right above your canopy on where you have your plants, or maybe you want a temperature sensor right inside or outside of where your foliage is. We have all these options in smart sensors that can hook up straight to our RX stations, or we do have these in the wireless sensors as well. So if you wanted to actually monitor things that are happening exactly at the location of where your plants are, we have a couple of options for you for that as well. Weather monitoring is critical. If we have large rain events, we want to know about it so we don't have to irrigate. If we have high wind speeds going on, we don't want to set up sprays for that day. We want to monitor our solar radiation, temperature, and humidity. So we have all of these options for the weather station in the smart sensors and the wireless motes as well. For all of the plug and play smart sensors, you can plug those into the unit themselves, and they're going to be up and monitoring. But sometimes you want to spread these out a little bit. Maybe you want to have the wind speed sensor maybe a little higher up than you do want to have the temperature sensor. Or maybe you wanted to put the rain bucket outside of where the trees are and in another location. Or maybe you wanted multiple wind speed and directions, or you wanted multiple temperature sensors. You would utilize the wireless modes. But as we're talking about irrigation, it's critical to also know what's going on with the weather, site specific. You're not wanting to base your irrigation practices based on a SEMA station that is 20 miles away. You want to know what's going on site, and we have options for that as well. I highly recommend getting some type of weather monitoring at your site specific. And as we talk about site specific, this is a product that is over on our LICOR side. It's called the LI710 evapotranspiration sensor, or it's also called our water node. And as we're talking about this whole water cycle, this is kind of the final parameter that we want to monitor. From the water source all the way through the irrigation system, to the soil, to the plant, this is able to monitor everything that is going up in the air, all that water that is going upwards. And this is a quick and streamlined way to get actual evapotranspiration. There is other ways that you can get a calculated evapotranspiration, but this is actually going to measure actual ET. It's not an estimate. It's not something that comes out of just some type of settings or an account. This actually monitors and it uses the eddy covariance method for measuring ET. So it's going to measure the vertical wind and the water vapor concentration on your site above your canopy. So we have this, what we call the water node. It is an all-inclusive setup. It's got the LI710 sensor. It's got the hardware module that's able to send everything up to the cloud, and it also comes with the LICOR cloud software. So you're able to use this for perfecting or managing your irrigation budget and your irrigation practices. It's a great tool because you're going to be able to see exactly how much water is leaving your site. The water that is leaving the site, it's not something we can see. We can see runoff. We can go out on site and we can see if we're over irrigating and sprinklers and the water's running off. We can see if we have irrigate or a drip system that's not working correctly and water is leaving our site. But we can't see the evapotranspiration that is actually leaving the site. So we talked about all these inputs that are we're able to capture, and this is the final one, getting actual ET. And this is critical to be able to use ET in your ag precision irrigation practices. You want to know how much water is leaving, and most people are actually irrigating to ET. The amount of water that is leaving, you want to get that back onto your field. And the way you can usually get ET is through a system like this, and then you can calculate how much water you're putting back on through a flow meter. So you see how all of this is looped together in what we were talking about today as this water cycle in the irrigation system. If we just do a quick cost analysis, right? If you could save 18% on how much you are pumping, you can save quite a bit of money. In average, I've got this off of the California Pistachio Growers site that they had one of their articles. In average, in California, the average cost per month to run an irrigation pump is around $1,500 a month. If you can save 18% and run that pump 18% less, you can have a savings of $270 a month. If you're irrigating for 7 months, that's a total savings of $1,800, right? And you're not only saving money on energy with this, you're also gaining money on your crop, because what we really want more than the savings of running a pump is we want to have optimal growing conditions for our crop. You want your crop to have the exact amount of water that it needs, no less and no more. So it comes down to So why not monitor? There's a lot of people that are not monitoring. You may be on this webinar and you might not be monitoring, or you may have clients that are not monitoring. These monitoring systems that we went over today give you the data to be able to make better decisions. And these better decisions that you're able to make is you're able to increase your yield, have more productivity. Because what is the cost of adding a solution like these? These systems that I went over today can range anywhere from $1,000 to a couple $1,000 on what you want to do. You know, you wanted to go through this whole huge elaborate monitoring network. Maybe you can spend a couple $1,000 or $10,000. But what are you increasing in your yield? How much more are you able to produce? And how much you're able to save with energy? So take a look at it. Why not monitor? Because a lot of these solutions can easily save you money on energy, increase your yield, and just help you save time in what you're doing outside. So why not monitor? I personally think you should. Every growing facility should have some type of monitoring system out there. We just covered a few that can really help you out. And maybe you want to start off with monitoring just your water source or maybe just your flow. We've shown you how we can increase that throughout the time and using different applications. Hopefully it's been helpful for you. We do have time for questions. I really appreciate everybody's time. It was great to be able to present our options and talk a little bit about and focus a little bit about the irrigation cycle and the water that goes through an irrigation system. So I'll go ahead and have Andrew Thompson, who is our water resource manager, get on, and we'll answer some questions if there are any.
Thank you, Brett, and great job. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. Brett, there were no questions, so either you did a really good job or we might have put everyone to sleep. So it's now, you're right on cue with 45 minutes. So if anybody wants to jump in and ask questions, Brett and I love this part of the webinar when people fire questions at us and we can kind of answer and be responsive as it comes. So feel free to throw them in. We can stick around. If no one asks questions, we'll shut it down in 5 minutes or so, but we'll stay on here for a few and wait for anything that comes in.
Yeah, definitely. Questions kind of come in at the end sometimes, so hang around if you can, and yeah, put those questions in. We'd love to be able to answer those for you. And if you do have questions and you just want to go ahead and email me, you've got my information up right there. You've got my phone. I've always got it on me. I love talking applications. I love talking about doing all of these things. So you're not going to bother me with a call, even if it's just a very simple question.
I'll reiterate and kind of add to that. You know, one thing that I will say about Hobo Data Log is we have so many products in our line, so many more beyond just what Brett was showing today, even though, you know, we crossed over a few different applications. So if you ever do have questions, you know, we're meant to be product and application specialists, so reach out to us directly. We'd be happy to kind of put together a solution that makes the most sense for you. All right, so we do have a couple questions coming in. Can this be used in CEA and aquaponics? If Brett, you want to jump in there, and I can also add to that.
Sure. CEA, I'm not familiar with the term. It's not ringing a bell right now, but aquaponics, we definitely can. We're talking about monitoring your water source. So we do have a whole line of water quality sensors that you're going to usually want to use with kind of seeing how your, you know, the quality of your water and quality. You can also utilize a lot of our temperature sensors, you know, in water, outside of water, in the houses where you're growing. So we do have a lot of sensors for that type of applications as well. Love to be able to get on a quick call with you and talk about those.
Yeah, Brett. So CEA is just controlled ag. So and with aquaponics, I mean, there's a lot of different options that we have. Whether I don't know if we got into water quality, but we offer water quality sensors. We offer, gauge pressure sensors that can work in, an inline system. So there's a number of other solutions along with those energy sensors, soil, you name it. We do a bunch in that environment as well. We actually have a specialist that's dedicated to the CEA market. And so, feel free to reach out to Brett and I. We can hook you up with him, and we can talk about what solutions we offer. But HoboNet in general is a great solution for CEA, just because, again, you can scale your network at an affordable cost, and everything's kind of real time live for you to view. So the next question, and they are firing in here, so which is great to see. The next question is, how accurate are the sensors used in this system compared to conventional irrigation methods? Brett, do you want to chime in on that? I mean, from my perspective, the sensors, everything that we sell, a big part of what we do is research based. So everything is kind of research grade, and the accuracy is meant to be for research purposes. But Brett, can you chime in on that at all when you're comparing it to, conventional irrigation methods? And I don't know if that's going over and grabbing some dirt and checking it out for moisture content.
Yeah, I mean, that's one, thing that kind of stuck up in my mind as well is, a lot of things conventional is, yeah, you're putting a probe, you're grabbing some of the soil profile to be able to take that out and into check. And I've always loved to do the field test, right? To be able to show people exactly what the soil moisture content is. So you can pull that up and do a field test. You can do a ribbon test with your fingers and match that up, visually. But, the conventional irrigation methods, they compare well. They're very accurate, like Andrew said, our sensors. And if you have some specifics on some of the irrigation methods that you like to talk about, reach out. We can get to those.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, we have a line of questions now. So another one here is, how quickly does and I can answer this, Brett, how quickly does the hub send data to the cloud and back it up? So we can log data up to every 1 minute. So that's taking an actual measurement every 1 minute. And then you can push up to the cloud up to every 10 minutes. So, or as quick as every 10 minutes. So it's updating that, pushing data in increments of 1 minute or more. And that's all something that you can adjust as well. You can log data every 5 minutes, 15. Push it to the cloud every hour. It's all dependent on what you set up. And then as far as backup, it will be stored in our cloud servers for up to 10 years. The station also has onboard memory. And then, you can export the data as you feel necessary. So you can set up automatic exports as well. Maybe you want a secondary backup source, and you can do that just by exporting data on Excel and sending it to your email. We have another one here. I just bought a temperature and humidity data logger, and I'm excited. My question is, can it be used in lowland rice farms where the rice sits in water for a long period of time? With the temp RH sensor, I don't believe that would be suitable for submersible type applications. I know the temperature sensor would be. We use that a lot, and we're talking aquaponics earlier. We use some of those temp sensors, or the wireless temp sensors in water applications as well. But temp RH, I do not believe you could use for that application if you are looking to submerge it. There is a question here about LI710. Is it already ready to be used in the HoboWare system? How many columns add to the CSV file? I will say that the LI710 is already, I believe, up and talking to Lightcore Cloud. So the HoboWare desktop software, if that's what you're referring to, I do not believe that it would talk to that system. It talks to the Lightcore Cloud software via cellular communication. And as far as how many columns, I don't have that answer, but we can follow up after this webinar. We'll see these questions and be able to shoot you an answer. Question here about nutrient deficiencies in soils. Brett, I don't know if you'd be able to speak to that, but we could also, that's something that we can kind of follow up on. That's maybe more of a discussion outside of here, but
sure. I mean, the only thing that we can really monitor, you can do temperature, you can do infiltration, rates, you can do, you know, connectivity, but
Yeah,
that's
I
about
see.
it. So deficiencies, I don't know, but yeah, I'd like to have a better discussion on that to see what you're looking to do.
Another question here regarding a relay module in the RX3000. Have you had an application where you integrated this system with irrigation control systems? Brett, I'll let you chime in, but before you do, I've had that relay module on the RX3000, sometimes used for pumps. You know, if there's a booster pump and you want to make sure you're not burning that pump out, or you know, tank levels going dry, or that there's a way to use the relay module, and the way it's triggered, it's really just an open close relay. And so, you know, based on a threshold that you've set for a parameter that's tied to that RX3000, you can trigger that relay to open or close. So it's could be good for pump applications. Brett, I don't know if you've used it for anything else.
Yeah, I think the ideal application for this is on off, turn a pump on off to fill up a reservoir or to fill up some type of a tank system, something very simple like that. And you can obviously do it for an irrigation if you're doing some type of flood control or something like that. But I think it's keep it simple to something that's very reliable and true, like filling a reservoir or a tank.
Awesome, thank you. And this is part shout out to you, Brett, for doing such a great job, but also a question. This one is in regards to a software. If it can be intervened into a software that can automatically irrigate using information from evapotranspiration and soil moisture while recording, keeping data for analysis. We offer, so with our Lightcore Cloud software, we know that sometimes we are not always the end-all solution when it comes to software. We're definitely a hardware manufacturer, and so that data can be displayed, managed, exported, and alerts can be set up all through Lightcore Cloud software. But if our software does not provide what you need for irrigation or other applications, and you're using a software already, you can use our API, or you can even use the FTP, SFTP to kind of push data. So our goal is to give you access to that data so that you can kind of make informed decisions, and that's whatever software makes sense for you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the shout out. It's an honor to be able to present to you. We do, like Andrew said, are able to send our information over to other platforms if you wanted to do some type of more extreme analysis. And I have a couple of people that, couple of different software companies that do some kind of extreme analysis on that, and they use our systems as well. So we can always touch base on that.
Awesome. And then let's see. And I think I may have missed a couple just because of the way they came in, but I think that is all of the questions right now. If we did not get to your questions, we will follow up. This webinar will also be sent, a recording of it will be sent following that for those who attended and those who registered. We really appreciate your time today and joining us. Brett, great job again. Like I said before, please feel free to reach out. You have Brett's contact here. We love having these conversations and talking about the different applications. That's what makes our job unique, is there's so many different data loggers and so many different applications to keep things interesting. So thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.